Hello there, my name's John, this is the Health Anarchist channel. Well, today I've got a really cool story to tell you. I'm into my history, especially my ancient history, and I was reading this really old book the other week. Now it's called Saddleworth, it's Prehistoric Remains, and it was wrote by an author called Ammon Wrigley, and it was wrote in 1911. Now, most of the book, it was your typical history book of the area, and a little bit dry, but I found this really amusing page on it, and it's a story that may be of interest to people who live in the Saddleworth area or know the Saddleworth area, or just people who like a little bit of local history. Anyway, I'll tell you what it's about. Now, in Saddleworth there's a big hill called Pots and Pans locally. At the top of this hill there's this big rock formation, and you have to kind of climb up it, and once you get on top of it you see all these holes and like basin-like depressions in the top of the rock. And basically that's what I think they're saying the pots and pans is, because of these depressions in the rock. Now, these were formed naturally over thousands and thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of years of the rain hitting the rock, and eventually it erodes away at the rock and forms these depressions. Now, also locally, it's been called Druid's Altar, and it was supposed to be this ancient Druid's Altar where people were sacrificed, had their throats slit and the blood drained down into these basins. And although it's quite a funny, dramatic story, I mean, maybe one to tell children to frighten them, it's not true. And going through this history book of the area, they're stating many times in there that it's not a Druid's altar and it's a natural rock formation. But there was this one really interesting page, and I'll just get to that now. So basically the text just says, it's not a Druid's altar, and he states other authors who say it's not an altar either and it's a natural formation. But he says there was one occasion when it was a bit like an altar of worship, and I'll just tell you about that. Now, it says there was a time in the Saddleworth area when there was a mass public celebration. Now, thinking of the time, the book was wrote in 1911, so it must be before that. And one of the biggest events that I can see before that was the coronation of King Edward, which was in 1902. That was Edward the 7th. And I think it was 9th of August, 1902. So with these royal type coronation events, you always get these big street parties in the UK. Not so much now, but back years ago there were much bigger public events. So I think it could have been that, it might not be, but that was one of the big events around that time. So along with the street parties and festivities that were going on in the area, there was a section of the local community who decided to go up to Pots and Pans, and they'd fill those basins up there with some kind of alcoholic hooch or punch that they'd made. Now, it says the local women contemptuously called it levy head broth. Now, in local dialect, I think it means really strong, you get levered on it, like you get levered on booze, and it was levered your head, maybe lever your head. I'll just put that up on screen so you can see how it's wrote in the book. So the people in the local community, they'd been talking about going up to Pots and Pans for many weeks, and they were all really looking forward to getting drunk up there and partying and celebrating it that way. However, it was discovered just before the eventful day that some highly refined person or persons had gone up there and filled the basins with excreta. So in layman terms, someone had gone up there and filled the holes full of shit. And it goes on to say that this trick had naturally riled the ire of many a worthy bacchanalians. When I say bacchanalians, I think that's referring to probably the old pagan god Bacchus, who was the god of partying and drinking wine and all that. And it said these people had been eagerly looking forward for a long time to going up there and getting a chep skinful So again, we've got another sort of local dialect word, and I think it just basically means a cheap skinful of ale. Then it goes on to say, but the day was at hand and there was no time for waste. So after furiously cursing several local suspected teetotalers and Puritans, and earnestly wishing them in the fire and brimstone district, they set about work and emptied the potholes of their offensive contents. So then they followed a great deal of scrubbing, washing and cleaning and chiselling around in these basins until they were considered free from contamination and good to go again to be used. So then the text goes on to say, it is natural to suppose that the worthy dry mouths who did the chisel work would have been alive to the fact that the larger they made the holes, the more punch they would hold. So yeah, they were probably thinking, yeah, well, we're up here chiseling away, we might as well make them bigger to get more booze in there. The day came and the potholes were filled with a lustier liquid than rainwater, and it is certain that if the rock was ever an object of real veneration and worship, it was on that occasion. Now, I am a believer in authorised and properly conducted ceremonies of this kind, and if our parish council could be persuaded to fill the potholes, say every Saturday afternoon, with a Druid's brew, rock worship in Saddleworth would receive a great and enthusiastic revival, possibly to the extinction of other religious sects. So I had to share that with you. It's such a good story and from such a long time ago. So I do hope you enjoyed this story today. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe. Keep yourself very safe, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care now. Bye.